We'll start with you.
How did you feel about Hit the Diamonds?
It's one of my new favorite episodes, actually. We watched it early because we had a girl from Make-A-Wish come to Cartoon Network, and we had like a little potluck with some of the cast members and most of the crew. And Hit the Diamond is one of my favorite, like, funny episodes, just because it's filled with like in-jokes and the whole Bob and Earl thing, and it's gold. And watching Charlene Yee record all those movies at once is like watching magic happen. Favorite fusion is Sardonyx. I just love everything, like her color scheme and like the whole broadcasting shtick is awesome to me, so she's a definite favorite.
What about you over here? And you.
Okay. So, do you think Steven will ever grow up? And if he grows up, do you think he'll look like you?
When I grow up, I want to be Steven Universe.
As we've seen and is confirmed on the show now, Steven does age, and he's 14 now. So yeah, I think Steven will eventually grow up. What he'll look like, I have no idea, because we don't really know how this whole human gem mix thing works yet. I don't know, like I used to look like a little bit like Steven without the fro. I feel like he'll hit a growth spurt at some point if he follows me at all. I hope so.
We have a microphone now. Good news. So, if you do have a question, line up in front of the microphone and we'll take them home.
Don't push and shove or anything.
Based it all like on you.
No, he's actually based on Rebecca's real brother, Steven Sugar, who is on our show. He's a background artist, and him and his team are awesome. But they already had art for Steven. When I first auditioned for it, they sent me a package with dialogue, the original extended theme, and pictures of Steven, drawings. And I used those to kind of create the voice as a reference. If you want a reference point for adult Steven, just look up Steven Sugar, because that's literally adult Steven.
How did you get into voice acting?
By accident.
Really?
Yeah, I was first I was a singer, starting when I was 7 in St. Louis, where I'm from, and then that got me into theater. Theater got me into film. Film got me into trouble because it brought me out to California, which is like a whole different world. But after a couple years of doing that, I got some auditions for some voiceover projects. I got good feedback, so my agent was like, "Hey, we could probably try some more of this." And I ended up booking a radio show that maybe 1 or 2 people here might know, called Adventures in Odyssey. Oh, a few. Okay, cool. It's a very large fan base, but it's a very niche fan base. But they're very, very dedicated to the show. And I did that show for 5 years, and that kind of gave me some on-the-job training, working with guys like Jim Cummings, who was here, Jess Harnell, who's an absolute legend. So yeah, that was kind of my start. That got me into some other animation projects, and Sophia the First was my first regular gig, and then Steven came along. Here we go. Hey, dude.
You look great.
Is Steven ever going to fuse with one of the crystal gems?
All I can say is I hope so. I think that would be really cool.
Peridot is my best guess.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. Lately on panels, I've been polling the crowd about a theoretical Steven Peridot fusion. Do you guys think it would be, as normal, double the height, the same height, or half the height? Because I'm really gunning for half the height. I think that would be the most farcical thing ever, to have the 2 shortest characters become even shorter when they fuse. What's that? I've mentioned it a few times, and I'm hoping that somebody hears it and is like, oh, this Callison kid's got some good ideas. I usually leave the writing to the experts.
I like your theory, though.
Thank you.
I'm on board with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Speaking of fusions, hey, Stevonnie.
I was wondering, what actors mostly do you take inspiration from? Actors do you, inspire you?
As far as voiceover goes, I mentioned Jess Harnell. He was there for my very first session of Adventures in Odyssey, and we've run into each other many times on many different jobs over the years. And he's just an amazing, genuine human being, a literal rock star, and has always been a huge inspiration to me. As far as film actors go, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think he's had an amazing career and has done some films sort of in the vein that I'd like to do. I got to play a young version of him in The Wind Rises, which was really cool. We didn't meet, but Jessica Chastain is one of my favorite actresses. 0 Dark 30 is one of my favorite movies. And of course, DiCaprio. I mean, nothing else needs to be said there.
Bob! What's the problem? It's Lapis. Thank you for coming to Florida, first of all.
I love coming to Florida. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I love coming to Florida too. If you could have a giant magical animal follow you around apart from lion, what type of animal would it be?
A jumbo-sized Steven Jr. Either that or my dog, because he's like really small. So maybe if you just made him giant, he'd be like a big dog size. Yeah. I was always a big dog person until I met him. But he comes with us everywhere. Like if he stays under the seat on the airplane. So if I jumbo-size him, I probably wouldn't be able to take him as many places. Sometimes we bring him to cons, actually. If like the hotel is dog friendly. He's not at this one, but he always has fun. He's always a hit with the fans too. Colby.
Of all the characters in the show, which one would be like your best friend for life?
Yes.
I feel like I don't know, either Amethyst or Connie, I'd say. Because Amethyst has that like rambunctious teenage energy thing going on, and like I'm a rambunctious teenager, so it goes along perfectly. And I mean, Connie is Steven's best friend in the show, and Grace and I have become pretty close since we came to Miami together last October for Animate. We never really hung out outside of the studio until then, but yeah, that definitely plays a part in it.
Thank you.
What I love about the show and watching with my kids is the optimism. Would you say that you're as optimistic in your outlook as Steven?
I think that's really hard, honestly. That's why it's easy to admire Steven for his optimism and his positive energy that he has almost all the time. I feel like I should aspire to be more like him in some ways because he's such a pure-hearted person. Yeah, I feel like that's something you should aspire to, but nobody's perfect, so we all have our moments. Even Steven has his moments, but that's one thing I love about working on Steven Universe is that it has that message of positivity, love, optimism, and it makes it really, really just an honor to be a part of the whole thing. So that's definitely an integral part of Steven for me.
If every pork chop was perfect.
We wouldn't have hot dogs!
Hey.
Thank you for coming.
Of course.
So I was just wondering, are we ever going to see Stevonnie in the near future?
I can't confirm or deny. But I love working with AJ Michalka. She does a really good job as Stevonnie. Funny story about Stevonnie, actually. When we first had AJ in to do the voice, she needed to laugh, and it needed to be a mix of Steven and Connie's laugh. So she was on the other side of the glass, alone in the booth, and we were out there with Rebecca and Ben Levin and all them, and me and Grace stood over the studio mic and just went back and forth laughing in character. And then first take, she nailed it, like mixed our laughs perfectly. It was kind of eerie, actually. Yeah. Hey.
So I was going to ask if you could talk about the new season at all, or if there's any tips or like what's going on.
No spoilers, unfortunately. But yeah, lots of amazing stuff coming up. Like I'm really excited for everybody to see it. We're really far ahead of what's on TV in the studio, so we kind of have a glimpse of what's coming. And Rebecca sometimes shares with us things that we haven't even recorded yet for context on things. Just really awesome, like character development episodes and things like that I'm really excited to share with everyone. And we also got a renewal, so even more is coming, which I'm very excited about. Lots of Steven Universe in the future.
Steven forever!
Yeah. I'm all for that.
Okay, so you said you worked at Jasper, and I had there was a panel of only 10 girls when I worked in, so I learned a lot about him.
At Holiday Missouri.
At Holiday Missouri, and so you two worked together on Sophia the First, right? Is that,
Yes.
like where you met him and everything?
I met him on Adventures in Odyssey, and we never actually recorded together for Sophia. I usually only recorded with Darcy Rose Burns, who played my sister, or one time with Ariel Winter. But no, Jess and I worked together on Mr. Peabody and Sherman. He was on Sophia as well, Adventures in Odyssey. And he's probably been on other shows I've worked on, just because he works on everything. But we haven't had him on Stevonnie yet, which I would die if they cast him for something. That would be awesome.
I don't know, like when you said you got working with him, I couldn't imagine that because it's just so out there and everything. I don't know.
He's got crazy range. I mean, if anybody watched Animaniacs, he plays Wacko on that, which is like, that's out there. And I've seen him like in the process of doing characters like that. He did a character named Mayberry, this librarian, on the first episode of Adventures in Odyssey I did. And he was this crazy, like, goofy character voice like this, but he goes all over the place. And I don't know if you've ever heard his band before, Rock Sugar. It's a crossover band, for those that don't know. They do classic rock covers, but they mix two songs together. Their most popular song is Don't Stop the Sandman. There's Don't Stop Believin' mixed with Enter Sandman. And he switches between Steve Perry and Kirk Hammett. It's like, or no, wait, sorry, James Hetfield. It's like amazing how close he can get his voice to sound like them because of how good of a voiceover artist he is and good of a singer he is. I'm actually going to see them later this month. I'm just going to leave that.
This is like kind of two questions. One is, which is your favorite Disney garment? Is it Sapphire or Ruby and Why? And then also,
That's hard.
if Steven, do you think that Steven would ever get into like voice acting himself, like as a character? And what kind of character would he want to play?
I feel like that would be a hilarious episode if like Steven like ended up like getting on Lonely Blade or something. I don't know how it would go, honestly, because I feel like Steven would be too nice for a show like that with like all that fighting. And, like when it's real and he's protecting his friends, like he's in the zone. But when it comes to something like that, he might be like all like flowers and sunshine. And between Ruby and Sapphire, man, that's so hard. It's hard to pick favorite characters when you're friends with the voice actors and you see the character and you see them at the same time. I don't know between Ruby and Sapphire themselves, but the fact that we've seen all these other Rubies and Charlene has shown us this awesome character range of what she could do. It's just so funny to watch. I always appreciate it when she's in the booth doing that.
Who would you say is your favorite person to work with, like, behind the scenes, honestly?
I mean, there isn't a bad person on Steven Universe. There isn't even a decent person on Steven Universe. Like, everybody's amazing at what they do. Our writing team is amazing. Our art team is amazing. The rest of the cast blows me away every time I'm in the studio. But it wouldn't be possible without Rebecca Sugar. And she blows my mind all the time with just her attention to detail. And something about Rebecca that I really respect is she's very involved with other aspects of the show's universe, if you will, besides the show itself. The books, the comics, she's very involved in making sure everything is consistent, and it takes a ridiculous amount of work, and she's always got a lot on her plate, but she's one of the most genius people I've ever worked with, and she's very, very modest and humble about it. Just a quiet genius, artistic genius.
What has to be your favorite show on Cartoon Network other than Steven Universe?
I was always a huge regular show fan. Back before I booked Steven. And I've gotten the chance to meet a couple of the voice actors from that one. Bill Salyers being one of them. He's awesome. And is also in my favorite video game of all time, Mass Effect. Which I found out by total accident in the middle of a panel with him and like almost fell off the stage. Adventure Time is cool. I finally caught up on a couple episodes lately because I made friends with all the cast and I hadn't hardly watched it. I was in Atlanta at the CNN Interactive Studio where they make like Attack the Light and all the games. And I played the Adventure Time like VR game. That was really cool, really cool. So yeah, of the current shows, I love those. Uncle Grandpa as well. Having the crossover episode So much fun. And those guys are nuts. But I watched Cartoon Network growing up as well, so like the classic stuff like Codename Kids Next Door, and Powerpuff Girls, and Dexter's, and like, that's also my jam. Speaking of jam,
You should any of the characters.
I should Ruby and Sapphire.
Stevonnie! You should Stevonnie.
No, I'm just kidding. I ship Rose and Gray. I might get in trouble if I answer that question. You know that, right?
Hi. I was just wondering, if you had to voice a Steven Universe character who wasn't Steven, who would you choose?
I actually do voice a couple other characters. I don't know if anybody knows who those characters are. It's all little bit parts, but ever since I started doing more character voices, they've let me do some extra roles. Whenever Onion does his little me, that's me. You thought it was Rebecca?
Yeah.
She might have done like maybe like I don't think she's ever done a voice on the show that I know of. Although I'm not there for every single session, so who knows. Lamar, one of our storyboarders, does sour cream. Yeah, all the Watermelon Stevens, including the dog, were me. There's some other ones coming up, and like little tiny parts that like you might miss if you blink. Just little fun stuff. All the crowd wallet too. That's all like the rest of the cast, because it's they don't want to bring in separate people for that. They have us right there, so we just change our voices and say random weird stuff like we're on the boardwalk or at the amusement park or something.
What about the gems, though?
Of the gems. Just because of the dialogue she gets to say, like I would totally play Peridot.
Yes! Yes!
You claws. There she is. Yo, shout out to Shelby Rabara who couldn't be here today. She's getting here tomorrow.
She
and
better.
I'm so excited. It's like her first con. And she's super stoked to be down here, so everyone give her a warm welcome tomorrow. Yes.
Her first one.
Her first con.
That's amazing.
We all are, man.
Oh, that's so incredible.
Of course.
A lot of fans of Steven Universe, they talk about crossovers. Like a lot of fans, especially, confirm a Steven Universe and Gravity Falls crossover. So if you could write a crossover episode between Steven Universe and any show, what would it? Any cartoon, what would it be?
Just to satisfy my inner child, Pokemon. I feel like a lot of, especially early on, I took a lot of inspiration for certain things that Steven said and did from like Veronica Taylor's Ask Ketchum that I watched when I was growing up. I've done a couple panels with at conventions and she is amazing. I love her. But she was like the voice of my childhood. Every now and then I would do a read on a Steven line and be like, oh, wait a minute, that was not me. That was Ash Ketchum speaking to my conscience.
What's your favorite song in the show?
You did not just go there.
It's not even a song. Wait, what do you say? Okay, I can do a little bit of something. But Stronger Than You is my favorite to listen to. Nothing to do with it. That might be why I like it so much, just because it's Estelle doing her thing.
Nice.
But yeah, that was one of the highlights of the show for me, was Jailbreak in general. One of my favorite ones to do was Giant Woman early on. I can sing a couple lines of that one.
All I wanna do is see you turn into a giant woman, a giant woman. All I wanna be is someone who gets to see a giant woman.
Hey.
Well, Steven Universe is known as a very socially progressive show, and Steven is known to not really conform to any gender roles, like in that episode where he, put on a dress.
Sadie song, yeah.
Did Rebecca plan that as she was doing the show, and how do you feel about it?
I don't know if she planned it. I think that's a much better question for her. She has the vision for everything that goes on in the show. She's had a vision for where she wanted the show to go for a very long time, like from the time she did the pilot. What was the second part of your question?
How do you feel about it?
Super proud of it. It's somewhere where really no other cartoon, to my knowledge, has gone before. And I feel like it's time to, break down boundaries, and it's a good message for kids. I'm all for it, 110%.
Okay, hopefully you've never heard this question before, so I'm hoping this is the first.
Okay.
But, if you were to name the two strongest characters that you voice and pit them in the fight,
That's really tough. Let me think about this for a second.
yes, I'm the first.
Billy Batson, Shazam, has got to be in there. It's the superhero cred. I feel like the other one would either be Steven or... You mean Yellow Diamond? One of my favorite fan theories, that and Sneeble. I don't know, like Shazam is like, because I played the Billy Batson end, but like once he becomes a superhero, like I feel like he would beat Steven in the fight, at least at this juncture where Steven is with his powers. Because Steven has very defensive powers, protective, supportive powers. And Shazam's like lightning, dude. Shazam!
Your optic device, gosh.
Thank you, you clod!
I've been here forever. So, Steven, now that I'm a crystal gem, will I be getting my limb cans back in point in time?
Watch it, Perry.
Watch me having no elongated arms and legs?
You'll get your privileges back when you earn them. We'll build new ones. How about that?
Fish them out of the ocean. Right there.
Hey, she's paying her penance. She had to play baseball. Because you couldn't reveal your identity.
Guard was screwed up anyway, so why didn't I just go out there and make myself Percy or something?
Should have shapeshifted, but you know what? That's in the past. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen Peridot shapeshift. I mean, I can turn my fingers into cats. Well, we all see how that went. Okay.
See ya.
You're my hero.
The mic's MIA, but I can repeat the question so everybody can
Here,
hear.
I'll come down to you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
If you could fuse with any of the gems, which one would you fuse with?
Peridot to confirm my theory. I have to know. How tall? This tall, or not tall? Only one way to find out. Did you have another question? Bubblegum princess.
If you fight a gem, which gem would you fight?
Jasper.
Drop the
bomb. Is Purple Puma cheating? I feel like a Tiger Millionaire, like Purple Puma throwdown. It'd be pretty legit. Now that Steven's because that was really early on, the first Tiger Millionaire, and Steven didn't have all his powers at his disposal, but now that they're a little bit more of an even match, I think we need to revisit that.
Tiger Millionaire!
Welcome back. Any more questions? Do you know when the next season of Steven Universe will air?
Here's the thing. I'm super confused on which episodes are in which season, and nobody seems to know. Okay, is that, I don't know if that's the new season, but that new episode's July 18th? Okay, I heard it got announced, but I didn't hear the date yet. We were just doing some promos in the studio for it the other day. I don't know if they released those, but they're funny.
Are the gems ever going to go back to Homeworld?
I don't know. It's definitely, Homeworld is a very unexplored plot point at this point, but that's in the hands of the writers. Said I need to be experts.
Which airing schedule do you like? Do you like the way they do it in an episode of the night during the week, or do you prefer it every Thursday?
You mean like the bomb format versus
the
regular?
Last time we got 4 episodes in a week, right?
Yeah, 4 or 5
sometimes.
sometimes.
It's like a cutoff. Everyone promos that it releases
Yeah, I don't know, we have no control over the Earth. I mean, that's all in Atlanta, and we're the LA team, but I do like the bomb format. I think it's a cool thing. I know it's frustrating for people, like the gaps in between the bombs, but I really feel like the bombs themselves are cool because it allows you to build a narrative over a week, and because we're an 11-minute format, we can still tell a story in 11 minutes, but you can really draw it out into a bigger story when you have a 5-episode arc over a week. Yo.
I can see you care a lot for the characters and care a lot for the show. For someone who's never watched the show, what would you say to me to get me to watch it?
I could give you a funny answer or a serious answer.
Either one's fine.
It's about space rocks who sing and cry. The real answer is the show has a lot of heart, and that's I don't want to say the fault of, because it's a really good thing, but it's because of our amazing creative team and behind the scenes, the Crewniverse, and what they do to make the show what it is. It's a message of positivity, optimism, acceptance, but it tells an amazing story and does some very non-traditional things for cartoons in a lot of ways. The way they tell the stories, some of the animation things in there are very different from a lot of other shows. So it's definitely a little off the wall, but in a good way.
Thank you very much.
I love your cosplay, by the way.
One Punch! I have not watched One Punch. I need to get on that.
You gotta get on that. It's phenomenal. Well, I have a question and a request. My question is more personal. What's your favorite Pokemon?
Yeah.
Dude, it's super weird. Are you ready?
Yes.
Mantine.
What?
Wait, same? I love it. I've never met anyone else with the same favorite Pokemon.
Underrated.
So underrated.
And my request is, could you say something in Steven's voice? Something sad?
Something sad? I can't think of any sad lines from the show off the top of my head. Does anyone?
Cookie Cat! He left his family behind!
The first time on a panel I've been requested to say something sad and depressing to Steven. I love it.
Well, during the episode when Lapis and Steve were watching his mother's video, did any of the members or you cry during when you were speaking?
Not as much when we recorded it because it was very fragmented. Because you're talking about the video with Rose and Brett, right?
Yes.
Because I wasn't involved with the recording of any of those parts. In fact, I very rarely see Susan Egan at all. She's awesome when I do get to see her. Very talented. But it definitely, when it came out, was when it really all came together. Because a lot of the times I only see bits and pieces of the episodes that I'm only in part of. So when it all comes together and you see and hear the emotion and everybody's voice, that even though we may not have been in the same room together, it was all there, and they bring it together so well. And that episode in particular was a very important one for Steven's development as a character, so it's definitely a landmark.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I just have a question. How did you get into voice acting, and do you have advice?
I kind of answered the how earlier by total accident, but to get into it, the most important thing for me was 2 kinds of training. I started as a singer, and I've been singing for 11 years, and it gives me a lot of vocal control over what my voice can do, especially after my voice changed and I got back into the music studio and started, because I lost control of a lot of my vocal range for a while because I was cracking and going all over the place, and I didn't really know where my limits were. And now that it's settled in again, like I feel a lot better because I started training again, started doing singing once or twice a week with my teacher. It's very good for your mechanics, and as far as the actual acting portion goes, nothing beats a good acting class and a good acting teacher. My acting teacher that I've always gone back to, I've been with many of them, but I've been with him for 8 years, and I'm going back to class next month because you can never stop learning, really. So those 2 things are definitely the gateway. If you start training both of those, that's my ideal regimen.
Thank you.
Hey.
How did you feel about watching the pilot and then watching the actual show and seeing how it changed and progressed from what it originally was to now?
I was very surprised by my voice. It was much higher in the pilot. We did it a year before we ever started recording any episodes. But yeah, there's a lot of things different about the pilot. the animation is super different, but seeing it change from the pilot to the show was a huge thing, because there was a whole year where I didn't have any involvement between the pilot and the actual recording of the episodes. Funny story, actually, I was telling some people this earlier. We recorded it in January of 2012, I believe, the pilot. And then 10 months later, I came back in for ADR, which is dialogue replacement. And I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, oh, the pilot is going forward still, that's cool. But a pilot is still a pilot. You never know what's going to happen with it, if it's going to become a show. And I was in the middle of signing the contract, so I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, the show got picked up, congratulations. I was like, wait, what? And then 3 months later, we were recording the first episodes. So it was all kind of a whirlwind. But going back to the pilot is very nostalgic for me. I watch it every now and then just because of that.
Will Rebecca ever fight Peridot and James?
Can't answer that.
I mean, they had a fight with words already. That was pretty savage on Perry's part. I can't answer your question, unfortunately. Hey.
What's the schedule like at Cartoon Network? Do you go in like twice a week, every other week? Or?
Once a week usually, and occasionally like every once a month we'll have an off week, and sometimes they'll use it for a makeup week, whatever they need to do. I'm probably the only person that's there for like 90% of the sessions. Lately it's been a little less because I've been working on another show, live action show, that's been taking up some of my time, so they've been kind enough to reschedule and work things around for me. But yeah, the thing about voiceover is the time commitment is super low, so it allows you to work on a lot of projects, and you see guys like Steve Bloom and Jim Cummings, they're doing like 6 sessions a week on all different shows, and that's why you hear their voice everywhere. A freedom you don't really have with on-camera acting. They need you for multiple days and holds and like television schedules, like they book you for months at a time where you can't work on anything else. But Steven has a very, very easygoing schedule, and I just go in and do my thing every week, see everybody, and it's a nice little routine.
The question is, what was the most emotionally taxing part of either voicing Steven Universe or watching Steven Universe?
There's definitely a lot to choose from, as you guys know. The one episode that stands out to me, I always forget the name of this episode, but it's the Little Butler episode. Maximum Capacity, thank you. The speech Steven has at the end of that one when he's yelling at his dad, the whole, like, that episode is just like a whole different type of messed up in a lot of ways. Like when Amethyst shapeshifts into Rose, like it's a whole different emotional side of things for Steven. He has a lot of emotional things with his mom, obviously because of the circumstances, and that episode really illustrated it for me when things went bad. The episode we were talking about earlier when he's watching the tape, that's an example of the opposite, but equally important to who Steven is as a person. I feel like one of Steven's main challenges is understanding like who his mother is and how to fill in her footsteps, I guess.
Right, and then my question is, my brother is going to make it to Supercon right now, and it's his birthday. Right, well, not today, it's coming up. Can you sing a happy birthday to Steven's voice, or is that?
If I can't do it on recording, but I can. Yeah, sure, why not? Actually, can we sing Happy Birthday? I'll sing the first 2 lines, everybody else join in afterwards. Sound good? What's his name? AJ. We're gonna do this. Do your vocal warm-ups, guys. Come on. Every morning before Steven Universe, no joke. If I don't do it, I can't do the voice.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear AJ. Happy birthday to you.
Hey. Yeah, that was a fun con, wasn't it?
Yes, and my sister said thank you for saying hi. She cried.
Cool.
My question is, what do you think the judges do when they find Jasper? Like, do you think Steve's going to give her a chance, like, or I don't know.
Let's hope they don't drop her down another fissure. I don't know. I mean, it's complicated now because like Peridot and Lapis are around, so it changes the scenario. I feel like a little bit, but I don't know how that would play out. We haven't I haven't really explored that or talked about that with the writing team. But yeah, I mean, Jasper is definitely a huge factor that's kind of looming overhead with everything. And after the whole Malachite storyline wrapped up, it was like this big question mark after the Super Watermelon or whatever. Yeah, it's definitely hanging in the air. But I honestly don't know how it'll pan out. I try to predict things sometimes, and they never go as I plan.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hey.
When it comes to acting or voice acting, what are your plans or maybe your hopes for after season movies?
I mean, I want to continue to do voiceover because it's been so good to me and I love doing it so much, but I want to do what I originally sought out to do, which was on-camera acting, particularly film. And I'm doing a show for Amazon right now, which I can't say too much about yet, but it's very exciting. It's on camera, so I'm very excited to be part of that. And I also want to do more of my own music stuff. I've been in the process of working on an EP very slowly. It's not going to be out for a long time because it's sort of a passion project right now, and it's like all this other work is taking priority. But little by little, we're getting through songs, and I got a couple I've got almost done now. So.
Woo! Hey, thank you. Hi, son.
Hey, Dad.
Cosplay, dude.
Thank you. So, me and a friend were having a bit of a discussion, and we were wondering, who do you think would win the fight? Steven or Finn?
Make that as cross.
Like, I don't know what kind of like abilities does Finn have in the later episodes, because I've only seen like earlier Adventure Time.
Honestly, your guess is as good as mine.
You just asked to be incendiary, didn't you?
It's just sword.
I don't know. I feel like I can't say Finn. I'd be betraying my own character. Write the crossover, Cartoon Network. Let's find out. No, me and Jeremy have known each other a while. He's a great dude, and I have mad respect to everybody on Adventure Time. But what's that? Finn has a grass sword? Well, I got a bubble shield.
Take that!
Gotta wins.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully that ends up happening, even if it's like some weird fanfiction thing. I want to see that.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Also, good luck on the evening.
Thank you, man. Thank
Proud
you.
of you, son.
Thanks, Dad.
My question is mostly your personal take between the relationship with Steven and his mom, and if there was an episode that he actually got to meet his mom, like how do you think he would react to it?
I don't know. I feel like he knows so much about his mom, but he knows so little at the same time, and that's one of his frustrations, I guess. It's why Rose as a character is so important to Steven as a character. Because I mean the Gems miss her a lot, but they love Steven too, and I feel like it creates this sort of conflict in his mind sometimes that's in the back of his head. Rose is made out to be this incredible gem who did so much good, and it's like this looming shoes to fill for Steven. Rose is gone, and now he's her replacement, if you will. And he's lost in the world sometimes. Like there's nobody like him. There's no other gem human combo that we know of. So he doesn't know who he is or who he's going to be, and that's very daunting for him sometimes. And I feel like the whole Rose storyline and her backstory is sort of looming in the background of everything that happens in Steven Universe.
And also, like, how do you feel about the ship team on
I think it's cute. I mean, they're friends, but
do you expect like anything to progress from that, or?
I don't know. Like, I that would be a really hard decision to make for me if I were in the writers' room down the line. I don't know. They're just kids right now, so it would have to be way further down the line, I think. But I don't know. Hey.
So my question is kind of like an amalgamation of all the voice acting questions.
I like that word.
lot of cartoon voice acting. Like sometimes you're all in the room and then sometimes you're recording separately. How is that like just like decided? Is it just scheduling differences? Or?
Yeah, it's as simple as scheduling differences, but it does make a huge difference in how things play out. I've never recorded with Tom Sharpling, who plays Greg, because he lives in New Jersey. We've actually only met once. Comic-Con San Diego 2014. They introduced us to each other, like, okay, glad you guys met, now go into interviews together for an hour. So we got to know each other pretty well on that, but he's a great guy. I never had the opportunity. The one time he was in LA, I was out of town. Usually it's like, I'm in the studio for at least part of the session, because Steven's in pretty much every episode, to my knowledge. And I see different people every week. Sometimes, like a couple weeks ago, we had a big group. It was like 4 or 5 people in the studio at the same time, and that's always really fun. Like jokes are getting thrown around, and we goof off a little bit because we've gotten down to the science, and it's efficient enough where we can get through an episode in a couple hours. So we have a 4-hour session, so we have a little time to goof around and have fun. But sometimes you have to record alone due to scheduling or just circumstance. So that's you have to know how to do that and not be able to play off the other actors. But it's nice when you can. We're all friends. We don't hate each other.
Hi.
Hey.
So let's say you weren't the voice of Steven. Who would you prefer to play with?
Ooh. I don't know. The thing about, if anybody's ever watched the full windows of Steven Universe, the casting is all over the place for Steven. Like they have like adult men, 9-year-old boys, adult women. Like it's so broad and open as to how you can interpret his voice. I don't know. That's a really good question I've never been asked before. I feel like if I were in the casting seat, I would pick somebody who was a little younger when they started and can really capture that childlike wonder that Steven has. That's something we really went for, me and my vocal coach, when we first started. We wanted him to have that, I mean, obviously the love and optimism thing that Steven is all about, that had to be a part of his character, but also that part of him that's that way. He is a child. He does have that amazement at sometimes the simplest things, especially early on before he's grown a little bit more. And I feel like that's so important. You have to nail that arc of like Steven growing up. And I feel like because I was growing up with him, it really aided that a lot. And really added a lot to the character subconsciously.
Thank you.
Okay. So, quick question. Pearl, I wanted to know how you felt about Pearl's and Steven's relationship, especially since she was so close with both courts.
Right.
So I just wanted to know how you felt about it, and since she was so attached to her, you're like really the last thing that she has.
I believe that's why she's so protective of Steven, and why she's that mothering figure to Steven a lot. I feel like Amethyst is more like the big sister type. Garnet is not so much a mother as she is, I feel like a mentor to Steven. Pearl is definitely the mom figure of the group, and I feel like that's good for Steven. Like he had somebody to take care of him and be that person in his life, especially someone that cared so deeply for his mother. I feel like it's good that Pearl was there, and it's part of Pearl's loyalty to Rose. I mean, it still is Rose technically. It's the same gen, but. Yeah, very, very interesting character dynamic between the two of them. And it's very interesting because sometimes I'll hear Dee Dee like talk to her kids and like sound like Pearl because she's got that natural mother thing going on. Usually it's more like the Steven type thing when they're like getting into trouble, but it's there. I like your shirt, it's sparkly.
So now that Lapis and Peridot are living together, do you think that Lapis is going to get into campaign cards as much as Peridot is?
That's a really good question, actually. First of all, I love the fact that Peridot is obsessed with like this somewhat terrible soap opera show. And watching them do the voices for the campaign cards characters was hysterical. I believe it was Dee Dee and Michaela that did them. Lapis doesn't seem like the TV watching type, but I feel like she would like reluctantly get addicted to it. Like start watching like, this is lame, put on the next episode. I feel like that would be her approach to it if she were gonna.
I
I'm somewhat lactose intolerant, which is another reason to avoid it, but I also get really congested, so I don't drink milk ever. Cheese is rare anymore. So yeah, especially when it's coming up to record days, I really have to be careful about that. Things I do like to go for, like, I'm a huge tea drinker whenever there's a session going on, because it's like hitting the reset button on my voice. If I put some honey in some tea, it's like a cure-all for me. Very, very therapeutic. But yeah, dairy is a huge obstacle for me, and I didn't know it for the longest time, so I had to realize what was causing the problem, narrow it down, and then cut it out. But I should have known all along, because my dad's lactose intolerant too. But it took me years to figure that out.
Thank you so much.
Does anybody have the time? I just realized my watch is gone. Okay, we have 3 minutes. We'll take these questions.
Sweet.
Perfect.
Sorry, Chris.
You're good.
Are you excited for Pokemon Sun and Moon?
I haven't been able to get into the new generations. Gaming in general has I've not been able to put enough time into it lately. I used to be the biggest follower of the industry, and I played a ton of different games. And I stopped around 5th gen. 5th gen is when it dropped off for me, and I love everything before that. I did like the concept of the games, and it switched things up a little bit, but it was at a time in my life where I wasn't able to fully invest in it. And I don't know. I feel like Pokemon now for me is I go back to it because it's nostalgic and it's familiar, and I love experiencing the same games I played when I was a kid again. Emerald is my favorite.
Do you think you ever actually see the world as a whole? And will you see any other worlds?
I hope so. It'd be cool, but I can't answer it directly. Sorry. Hey.
Based on what you know about games, how do you think they would react to
Memes?
That's the best question I've ever heard.
That boy. Pearl would reject them completely. I feel like Steven and Connie would get really into memeing. Garnet would slightly smirk at them, but otherwise be indifferent, and Amethyst would be the dankest memer of all time.